They're like, dude, you just sent a girl some dirty messages at 3 a.m. when you were drunk. Like, what's the big deal? I'm yeah, but...
I worked for Shay, and during that time, he sexually harassed me.
Many moons ago, there was a YouTube vlogging family called the Shaytards. They are the OG of vlogging families. They are literally the very first family that ever vlogged their lives online, and they were very popular. They had 5 million plus subs.
Cause I got green jelly and mustard. What else could a guy want? Okay, I'll make another one tomorrow. See you guys.
However, after about 10 years of vlogging, the father, Shay, sent some rather, where you can see the messages, to a cam girl, and it all blew up online. Everybody was talking about it. It turns out he had alcohol issues and he went to rehab.
Dude, this is my room. Yeah, when my family came to visit, we all hung out in here, chatted. I did push-ups in this room. I read a lot of these books. What'd you do with the bookshelf? There was a bookshelf there.
He then went on to Roman Atwood's podcast recently to explain finally and open up about what happened at that time in his life.
You know, I made some poor decisions one night when I was intoxicated, and those messages came out on the internet.
Yeah, was the messages, was it just the messages? That's it?
Yes.
And it was
I never even met this person.
Yeah.
Never met this person. It was DMs.
It's like you're drinking, you're DMing.
Yeah, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And this was...
I thought it was blown way out of proportion.
Yeah.
I was like, he sent some, as an outsider, I'm like, yeah, he sent some messages, but dude, like, it doesn't seem like it's as bad as everyone's making it sound, right? But it sounds like it was just horrific.
I mean, I don't want to minimize what I did by saying, but I've had a lot of my buddies say that. They're like, dude, you just sent a girl some dirty messages at 3 a.m. when you were drunk. Like, what's the big deal? I'm yeah, but
it's not who you are.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's completely normal for plenty of people.
Yeah,
not for us.
That was Roman Atwood, by the way, acting like an absolute idiot in front of his wife, Shay Carl's wife. Shay Carl was acting an idiot in front of his wife and Roman Atwood's wife. It was a whole shit show, right? That brings us up to date. Then along comes this lady who used to work for the Shaytards and Shay Carl. She was a nanny and other such things. She had some rather fascinating accusations to put towards Shay Carl and expose him for everything he's done and things that we didn't know that he'd done. This is her story. However, there may be a few holes in the story, but let's get on to that.
Today's the day I break my silence. I'm calling out Shay Carl. I'm going to tell the truth of the situation. I'm going to tell my story.
I have cut this up, by the way, so that we only hear the important parts because it was very long. It was like an hour long. So if you want to go and double check all the information in this to make sure that I haven't stitched it together and whatnot, please do so. The link in the description box below.
4 years ago, I worked for Shay Carl, and during that time, he sexually harassed me. At that time, we had been friends for 8 years, and I got a job as a nanny, and I nannied his kids quite often, but I got another job outside of Shay. I didn't really want to work with him or trust him at that point.
It's interesting that she doesn't trust him because they've been friends for 8 years, apparently. So I'm not trying to pour water over the story. I'm just trying to understand the story. It doesn't make sense to me.
So I got work outside of being their nanny, and I was a nanny to another girl. I started teaching private music lessons, and I built up a business for myself teaching private music lessons. I had 35 to 40 students on and off while I was in LA, and it took me like 5 to 7 years to get all those students and to create a self-sustaining job for myself. And I felt really empowered being my own boss. Like, I didn't trust Shay at that point because he had talked up Maker Studios. I moved out there and it all fell through. So that was kind of my first devastation with Shay Carl. It was very, very devastating to move out to LA and think you're going to be set and have money coming in and have a job. And he did help me. He gave me, he paid me to nanny his kids, and he did help me through that rough time. So I went on my own way and did my own thing. And then one night they asked me to watch their kids and babysit. So I did. That night his daughter and I wrote a song together, and it ended up blowing up, and it almost has 12 million views on YouTube. And that was a big paycheck for me, okay, I trust Shay Carl again.
You trust him again because he got your money. Okay, that's interesting.
Like, he's really helped me out. His heart is in the right place. It was just like a difficult thing with Maker Studios, and I started to trust him again and started to do music and stuff with the kids again. But I still had my own business going. I was doing fitness stuff. I was just doing all sorts of stuff to get by in LA, and it was struggle at times, but I was self-sufficient, independent, and it felt great, and I was so happy running my own business.
It sounds like you were doing well. So what happened next?
And then 7 years of living in LA, 6 or 7, Shay hits me up and he's like, hey, we're gonna relaunch our channel. This is after the cam girl thing. So they'd already stopped vlogging for a while and they were gonna relaunch their channel. Now, I knew about the cam girl thing. I didn't read the texts between them. I didn't want to know. But it didn't deter me from working with him. He had been my friend, and I just thought, what people do behind closed doors is their business. I don't want to know.
See, this bit is interesting because you clearly didn't want to know back then when there was an issue with what he was doing, but now there's an issue with what he's doing because it involves you. You want to expose him for that, but at the time you said what people do behind closed doors, it's their business. So why are we getting unleashed upon?
Not my issue to deal with. Never in a million years did I think I was going to be in the line of fire. Whew, sorry, I'm really hot. My chest gets red when I get emotional. Never did I think once like, oh, Shay Carl's going to sexually harass me. Not once, because like he states in the video, we'll talk about this in a minute. Anyways, I'm going to keep moving forward. We'll talk about that in a second. Long story short, I ended up...
Incidentally, I'm very well aware that it sounds like I'm hating on her. I'm really not. I'm just trying to provide a balance to this and give it from a different perspective, because there are two different perspectives on this.
Editing their Hawaii vlogs, like we did daily vlogs while they were in Hawaii.
Oh, so you were the one that was responsible for this particular title. Fat Dad, Fat Kid. Do you see the problem with that? That's not right. That's not okay. I know this was a few years ago, but it was still not okay back then. So that was your handiwork.
And then we talked about doing music with the kids. So I had at that point been traveling up to Idaho and back to Los Angeles a bunch, just to work with them. And he said, why don't you move up here? We'll start kind of like a mini Maker Studios. We'll get a house where, we have camera people and we'll do music with the kids. And since I did have the rapport with him at the time, we had a steady few months of work and it was going well.
So this was a very important question that needed to be asked, and she answered it. Did you not have an employment contract? She says, nope, which in hindsight we probably should have, but there could have been an NDA included and I would never have been able to speak out. So it could be a good thing or a bad thing. So you went out there with no contract whatsoever for employment. You uprooted your life, you left all your business, all your personal life behind, everything you just dropped, and you went off on a whim and with no contract in place. I personally find that quite funny. I know it's not funny, it was a mistake, but you know, it's life.
I just thought it would keep going well, and you know, they're having a comeback and I wanted the best for them. I wanted them to succeed.
This is the other thing. You wanted them to succeed. You knew full well that they had been a year off vlogging at that point. They were very unreliable. Shay had just been in rehab, and you know, you dropped everything to go out there and left your entire business behind.
And I was working my ass off for these people. Working my ass off. Editing daily videos is a lot of work. So I decided, hey, I will move to Idaho. My family's in Montana. I'll be closer to family. I can just pop up there and see everyone. Shay had a music studio in his barn, and I would have my own house that I could live in, and maybe, you know, camera people would share a room or something in the house. I was thrilled. I was going to be able to pay off all my debt. It was worth giving up everything. I gave up everything. The job I had worked the last 7 years to create, I gave it up. I gave all my students away to other teachers, and it was such a good opportunity. I get to be creative for a living. I get to edit videos and do music. It's like my dream job. You know, I wanted to help them come back from this cam girl situation.
And there it is again. You wanted to get him past this cam girl situation. So again, you didn't really care about what he'd done to somebody else or to everybody else.
I give up my entire life, my livelihood, my job that I've worked so hard for. And my brother gives up his life for this new opportunity. I uproot myself and my brother. We're going to do a full Christmas album with the kids.
So you went out there specifically to exploit his kids for money because you'd previously done this one video with his kids and it got lots of views and you got lots of money out of it. So you're willing to go out there specifically to exploit his kids. Nice.
And a song that hit the iTunes charts. So we wrote and then recorded the song in my home studio, and then we filmed the music video. And it now has 11 million views on YouTube? What? Not only that, it got on the top 100 of the iTunes charts. We're number 50 on the iTunes chart. So 2014 was a really good year. I made 3 New Year's resolutions. One of them was to have a song on the iTunes chart.
We just hit 54 on the iTunes chart.
At VidCon 2014! We got to perform Forever Love at VidCon, and I also got to host a songwriters panel.
Picture you all naked right now, because especially you. And then they stopped vlogging. They stopped having video content for me to edit. I moved up there with the promise that I'd be editing 3 to 4 videos a week and doing a Christmas album with the kids.
Sounds like you were on the wrong end of a bad deal. You went out there, you dropped everything. You dropped your life, you dropped your business, all your customers and clients. For what? The promise of vlogging, or the promise of editing vlogs, which you could be doing at home, and the promise of exploiting his kids. So you really don't have anyone to blame but yourself for this. It's a bad situation, I admit. It's not a good thing to happen to anybody. I do have some sympathy for you for that, but it really isn't anybody's fault except for your own.
I leave Colette's brother's house and go home. And of course, Shay knows where I live. Nothing was awkward except for the conversation we had, like where he was basically telling me, sorry, we haven't been giving you work, and sorry, like we're not posting right now. So I went home and I just started, like, went in my bedroom and just started bawling. I was so devastated. Like, I'd just given up so much for this job opportunity, and now I'm not getting work.
I do want to remind you that there was no employment contract in place, so it wasn't an actual job. It was a freelance opportunity, which, whilst you think you're going to get work from Shay, you were not contracted to him, so you were able to work for somebody else at the time. If you saw that there was no work coming in, you could have gone and find your own work.
So devastating. That was tough. That was really, really tough. Yeah, so I was just in my room bawling, and then apparently there was a knock at the door. I didn't hear it, but then I see my phone buzzing, and it's Shay. He says, I'm at your door. And I'm like, what the hell? Why? So I open the door and he comes in. He's like, I need to talk to you. So we kind of go into the kitchen. My brother Alex comes upstairs and he's just kind of listening from the other room. He's kind of sitting in the living room on his phone. But so Shay and I are over here in the kitchen. Alex is over here in the living room. And then Shay starts saying, Colette kicked me out, and she's really mad at me, really angry at me. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, what happened? Like, just trying to be a friend, you know, and whatnot. And then he says, like, I need to talk to you in private, because he could tell Alex was listening. So I'm like, okay, like, did something happen? And so the kitchen's here, Alex is over here, and he's on one side of the bar, I'm on the other side of the bar in the kitchen, and he just makes a beeline for my bedroom. And so I go in after, I'm like, what's going on? And he lays in my bed. He just like lays in my bed and he says, I really need to sleep here tonight. Basically, I need to let him sleep in my bed tonight. And he says, Colette kicked me out. I don't have a place to go. I'm like, dude, you're a fucking millionaire. Go get a hotel. That's what I was thinking in my head. But really, I just froze. Like, I didn't know what to do or say. I was super uncomfortable. And he's like, just let me sleep here tonight. Promise I won't touch you. And then he continues to say, but I've always been so attracted to you. Like, I don't know if I could control myself. And I was just frozen. I didn't know what to do. And then I look over at my phone and my brother's listening from the other room and he texts me, this is sexual harassment, which obviously it is.
How was your brother listening from the other room? Anyway, it sounds like it was a really awkward situation. Really awkward and not pleasant. Somebody that you think that you trust or your friend comes on to you, it's not a nice situation, I'm sure of that, and awkward. It happens to many people every day of the week, unfortunately, but you know, that's the way it goes. Shay was not your boss. Just bear that in mind. He was not your boss. I think the lines are getting quite blurred because she thinks that Shay was her boss and it was employee-employer harassment. But Shay was not her boss. Not, because they didn't have an employment contract. And all this is serving to do is dig up old wounds for his family. When the cam girl situation came out, his family went through hell. His kids were bullied and his wife went through hell. And now she's bringing this up And it doesn't seem like, whilst I acknowledge it was a nasty situation, it really, is it worth putting his kids through all that bullying again? Is it? I know what you're trying to say, that it is Shay's responsibility to keep his kids safe, and it is. That's why he shouldn't put his kids online, and he shouldn't be exploiting his kids. Something that you've been helpful at helping happen. But it's also, is it something that needs to be dragged up again just so that you can get a few thousand views?
And so I try and just, I don't know why I'm afraid to just be like, get the fuck out and leave. Like, I don't want to be aggressive with him, because I don't know. It's kind of I can't even explain it. You just kind of freeze and like are in high alert. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And then so I figured if I brought up Colette, he would have a change of heart. Like, oh, my wife, right. So I say to him, I'm going to CrossFit with Colette in the morning. This is very uncomfortable. Like, am I supposed to let her know you are here tonight? And then he kind of gets out of bed and gets like, sits on the end of the bed. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And just, you know, he kind of rambles on about how he doesn't have a place to go and he just needs some help. And, you know, he's done so much for me in my career, and I need to, it's almost like he's pressuring me to let him stay there. It's not almost, it is. He was pressuring me to let him stay there. And then I told him, I'm like, you know what, Shay, it looks like you're drunk. Like, I'll call you a cab.
You said that he'd been drunk, just like that. You know, he'd been on that 12-step program and been to rehab and everything, and that he was sober. It didn't strike you as being a little bit odd, the fact that he was drunk? Hadn't you just been to Colette's brother's house? Was he drinking there? Did nobody say anything? The fact that he was drinking and that he must have had a relapse at the time? No? Didn't cross your mind at all, or just...
And then he kind of gets up and kind of stumbles a little bit, and then he comes at me right up to my face like he's gonna kiss me, and I just kind of like, okay, Shay, you gotta go, and push him away, like you gotta leave. And I think I mentioned I'd call him a cab, and he's like, no, and like storms out, kind of angry or something. He also sent me like a guilt text after that, like, oh, I made it home, but I have to go sleep in the barn. I'm like, boo fucking who? Go sleep in the barn. Like, so sad for you. So that was my sexual harassment experience with Shay, was he was pressuring me to sleep with him. And this has happened to other people, and they have turned him down as well. Not my story to tell.
She says, well, we had 3 months of work history with no contract, so I just assumed it would continue that way. I'm very happy I didn't sign a contract because I've learned that typically they include an NDA, and therefore I would not have been able to speak out. Okay, Danna, that's your name. Danna, right. I'm just going to throw this in here. An NDA prevents you from talking about things like the vlog that you're editing, the behind the scenes in the vlog and stuff like that. It does not prevent you from speaking out against things of this nature, because otherwise everybody would do it. I really, really hope you know that. Where did you get this information from? You've since learnt. I know exactly where you've got that information from. You happened to go on a certain person's podcast recently. That is incorrect. So...
I had just signed my name on this lease, and it's a $1,500 lease. Shay is paying for part of it because he wanted me to get a big house so other production people could stay there while they're in Idaho.
So on top of everything else, Shay is paying half of your lease on your apartment. So what is there to complain about? I mean, that's not a get out of jail free clause for anybody who does commit sexual harassment, but you don't have any bills to pay because he's paying for them.
for, you know, and I was totally cool with that. Yeah, whatever. So, like, some cameramen need a place to crash. We have a 5-bedroom house. So I was paying half and Shay was paying half, but my name was on the lease. So we have this $1,500 house that I have 10 more months on the lease, you know, and I have all sorts of bills and things coming up, and I just felt absolutely trapped. I felt like, okay, I'm just gonna put my head down and just work for the next 3 months and save up money and then get out of here.
So having gone through all this trauma, you decided not to leave and you decided to stay. Could you have not gone to your parents or anything like that? Would they not have put you up in such a traumatic situation?
And my brother was like, that is not a good idea. You need to get out of here. And I didn't know how to get out of the situation. I didn't know, like, am I supposed to sue him? Am I supposed to hire lawyers?
Sue him for what? Okay, now that sounds harsh. It sounds, everything that I've said so far sounds like I'm disbelieving, okay? But what I'm trying to get at is the truth, the facts of the matter, and the actual legalities of it. Because as far as I can tell, there was no contract in place. He did not owe her anything in terms of finances or job opportunities. There was no contract to say we have to give you this amount of jobs or this amount of money or anything. So likewise, when it comes to SA in the workplace, he's not her boss either. So again, that's not something that she can sue him for. So I'm not quite sure what it is that she would be going for.
Like, what do? I just want to get out. I don't want to go through all that with him. I just want to get the fuck out of here and start my life over. I just figure I will keep working, save enough money, and then they don't have any work for me. And he's trying to get me work. So he did get me work working for Trixon, his clothing company. So he had me ordering hats and shirts and fulfilling orders and shipping stuff out. And I was like so desperate at the time. I just needed the money and the work. So
despite not owing you anything, he continued to try his best to find you some jobs, odd jobs to do, and get you a bit of money together. That sounded quite nice of him, to be honest. He didn't have to do that.
Christmas, you know how they do those gigantic vlogs on Christmas? Well, I edited their vlog on Christmas for 10 hours. And in the vlog, they're portraying like the perfect marriage and the perfect family and everything's so great. And it was so sickening to me.
You edited a Christmas Day vlog, one of the most money-making vlogs of a family vloggers. Yeah. Okay. Did it cross your mind that they were being exploited and you were helping the exploitation or anything?
And I literally, after I uploaded it, I collapsed and I like couldn't move for like a full, like, it was kind of later in the day, but I like could not move my body. I don't know what happened. I felt like I was having a heart attack or something. And it was just so gross editing their video where they're portraying this perfect family and I have to edit it and put it together and tell that story. It's just like gaslighting to the max. Like, now I'm helping them tell this fucking bullshit story. And
welcome to family vlogging life. It's all fake. You should know that. But this is the vlog in particular that she's talking about, and I've got to say, how can you possibly be upset at Shay being all happy families with his family on Christmas Day? It's the kids. They are having a lovely Christmas, and it is the kids that's important. Yes, of course he's going to make it happy families for them. What do you want them to be? Sad, upset, make it a miserable Christmas?
I talked to one of Shay's friends and they told me, just ask him for $100,000 and get out of there. I'm like, I can't just ask him for $100,000 and get out of there. Like, morally, I couldn't do that. I don't want his money. I want I want to be able to survive and start over, but I'm not going to just take him for $100,000. And I'm like, he wouldn't give it to me anyway. He's like, yeah, he would. If you tell him what happened, he knows what happened, he'll give it to you. So I calculated what I would make hypothetically in the next 6 months, had they been giving me the work they said they were going to, and that's what I asked for. And Shay, I've never had someone respond to an email so fast. He's like, yep, we'll do it. First thing, tomorrow, I'll get you the money.
He actually gave you the money. You did really, really well out of him, because legally he didn't have to give you a single thing. He did not have to give you anything. Work-wise, he didn't owe you anything. If you took him to court over the essay, you wouldn't have got anything. There's nothing that he owed you. So, well done. You got a lot. You did really well, to be honest. Should be happy with that, actually.
I couldn't go back to LA. Like, I didn't have a job to go back to. I had created like a music business where I taught music lessons. That was my job, and I gave my students away. Job also was I was only paying $750 for rent in LA. We had rent control, and I couldn't afford to just go live by myself in a $2,000 apartment, not with the severance that they gave me. You know, I couldn't just go start over in LA. I wrote him a letter, and I'm going to read it to you a little later, but I wrote him a letter saying, like, I moved here and you promised this many videos and you haven't delivered. Also, I went play by play, like, what happened that night. And just to show him, like, hey, I have a text from my brother saying this is sexual harassment. I have a text from you saying you're knocking at my door. Just reminding him, you know, I have proof and you can't gaslight me. You can't tell me that something didn't happen. And you need to make it right and give me severance so I can leave. So thankfully he said yes, but my heart was breaking for Colette. Dumb me, trying to protect Colette. So Colette calls me, like, super concerned and empathetic, saying, oh, I'm so sorry, we haven't been vlogging, we've been just having issues and it's been so hard for us. And I totally empathized with that. I felt for them in that. But she obviously didn't know Shay had sexually harassed me, because she's just thinking I'm leaving because obviously he told her I'm leaving, and because she called me. He probably told her she's leaving because we didn't have enough work for her. So Colette was super apologetic and sweet. And on the phone, I was like, well, did you see the letter I sent to Shay? And she says, what letter? I'm like, I'll send it to you right now. What's your email? So I sent her the letter detailing exactly what happened when Shay sexually harassed me. I sent her that letter. I never heard one word from Colette. Never heard one word of empathy. I thought, you know, I was helping her by being honest. I wanted to be honest and truthful with her. She deserved to know. I would want to know in her situation. But for her to not contact me or have any empathy for me was very disheartening. Not only that, but the next day Shay was like, pissed that I sent it to Colette. Obviously, I knew he would be, but all of a sudden he didn't have the severance money to pay me.
Well, I need to put this down to naivety, surely. If you're ever in this situation, get the money first before you rock any boats. Honestly, I can't believe some of the things that she's done. I can't just.
And I was like, well, you told me you had it a couple days ago, so you need to honor that. And then he finally came to his senses, but he wasn't going to give me the money because I had told Colette. Like, it was soul crushing to have to start over because of his fucked up actions.
Okay, so I need to point this out one more time. You need to take some accountability. You were the one that left your entire life behind. You were the one that uprooted your life. You were the one that dropped all your clients. You were the one that went out there on a whim, knowing that this man has been very unreliable in the past. He's also been not working for a while. He's only just come back to work. And you went out there on a wing and a prayer, and it didn't work out. And that is really sad. So obviously it's upsetting, and I get why you're upset about it, but it is not Shay's fault that you did that. Yes, he he probably spun you some lines about how it's going to be amazing. You should come out here and join us. You can be with the family, and you can edit, and we'll have a great time. But I get the feeling that Shay is like that. He's very skitty and just doesn't, like, he gets this idea in his head and he goes for it. And he drags everybody into his crap. That's the type of man that I think he is. But at the end of the day, you were the one that decided to go ahead with it.
It was so difficult and so emotionally challenging, and he just took everything. He took everything from me. Shay sexually harassing me as my friend, it's gross, it's sad, it's hurtful, it's shattering to our relationship, and I don't want to be his friend after that. But Shay sexually harassing me as his employee, when someone's in control of your livelihood.
Now, I honestly think that this needs to be cleared up by yourself, because you're consistently putting out there that Shay was your boss and he SA'd you. SH'd, harassed. You're putting it out there, and he was not your boss. So it's misinformation. I do think at the time that's how you felt. You thought you didn't need a contract, he was your employer, but that wasn't the case. Now, this is where it gets a bit, like, exploitative, because a few days before she put up this video, she had actually told this entire story in another video, which only got about 4,000 views. Instead, she put out a separate video intended to get a lot more views, and it did. And it garnered a lot more attention. So it wasn't just about telling her story. As you can see, she did it in the space of 1.5 minutes, what she told in an hour.
Came crumbling down at this time, and Ronald the rescue turkey knows what I'm talking about. Basically, I was fucked. I think we should probably skip over this part because it's a very, very, very dark time, and I don't like to talk about it. Welcome to the dark side. But what I will say is this. You remember that whole movement with like Harvey Weinstein? I forget what it's called, but do you remember that movement? Yeah, hashtag me too. Let's give you a hypothetical example. Like if you packed up your whole life and your little brother quit the job that you worked 7 years for and moved to Idaho for a really good job opportunity. And then 2 months later, your boss shows up at your house at 10 p.m. drunk, proceeds into your bedroom and lays in your bed and continues to tell you that he needs to sleep with you in your bed tonight. And he won't touch you or anything, but he doesn't really know if he can control himself because he's always been very attracted to you. But you should probably let him sleep there because he's done so much for you and your career. Do you know what that's like? Yeah, hashtag me too. And then hypothetically, your brother texts you from the other room saying, this is sexual harassment. You tell your boss to leave, but he doesn't want to. But you remind him that you're going to CrossFit with his wife in the morning. And then he pops right out of bed. You pick up your phone to get him a cab. Then he proceeds to try and kiss you on the mouth. At which point you push him away and demand that he leaves. And he drives away drunkenly. And then acts like nothing ever happened. Do you know what that's like? Yeah, hashtag me too. And then your support system leaves the toxic situation, as they should, but you had just signed your name on a $1,500 lease. You have a $6,000 tax payment coming up, $250 in student loans, $450 car payment, $200 in insurance, and you're paying for 3 Netflix accounts. What the F? Why do I have 3 Netflix accounts?
But since I did have the rapport with him at the time, we had a steady few months of work and it was going well. I was thrilled. I was going to be able to pay off all my debt. It was worth giving up everything. We were going to do a full Christmas album with the kids. I moved up there with the promise that I'd be editing 3 to 4 videos a week and doing a Christmas album with the kids.
So these are the main points you need to know. Left thriving job for freelance work. No employment contract. Shay paid her rent. She was willing to exploit his kids. No employment contract. You see where the key is lying here? There is no employment contract, which nullifies everything that she said or complaining about in the video. The sexual harassment problem. No employment contract. Shay was not her boss. No employment contract. I would just add to all this that she exploited and was willing to exploit their kids to the max in order to make her way in the world. That was why she moved to be with Shay, is so that she could exploit his kids, which, to be honest, doesn't really sit very well with me. Anyway, thank you if you've reached the end of this. I know it's been a very long one today, but it was important to get as many points in as possible. I do, however, sympathise with her situation from when she was out there and she probably felt alone, although she had a brother with her. She didn't see a form of income and she was struggling with her debts and things like that, and she probably felt a little bit trapped. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm also not sorry because you are bringing all this up to bring hate on their kids again, and that is not okay. And for what? What do you actually look to gain from this?